How to sell on Amazon in 2020. These are your questions answered. What's up guys, welcome to the video. So these are your most burning questions about starting to sell on Amazon in 2020. So I recently went and did a poll on my Instagram account. That's Myles. I'll leave it down here. Go and follow me by the way if you haven't already. But I put out a poll to see what you, the audience, were actually worrying about, or what are your concerns or what are your obstacles in terms of starting to sell and selling successfully on Amazon in 2020. Some of the questions were really good ones, and what I wanted to do is actually go through the questions and answer them one by one in this video. So you're gonna have a much better idea about what are the obstacles involved with selling on Amazon in 2020 and how do you jump over those obstacles and get to the goal of having your own successful Amazon business. So I'm gonna go through these questions with my answers. If you like that, by the way, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to click that notification bell as well so you're the first to get videos like this. And without further ado, let's get into it. So what are the most important and biggest things to consider as far as obstacles? If you're just on the outside looking in or you're just at the start of this process, what do you need to know in advance? Firstly, understand that this is just a business, right? Which means there is a lot to learn. There is a process to follow, but inevitably, expect the unexpected. Understand that you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have to put in work for an extended period of time, many months before you actually get anything back in return. I feel like that is the most important thing to clarify at the outset. This is absolutely not any kind of get rich quick scheme. This is going to require an investment of your time and your money as well, right? So it's risk on both fronts. And that can be very scary. And I think I always like to start off with the kind of mindset aspect and setting realistic expectations, because you can absolutely change your life in a matter of let's say 2 years or something, which is absolutely incredible, right? An opportunity to do this, a scalable business model where you can end up with this business that's hands-off, not 100% passive, but it's very hands-off. You can work from anywhere, you can make lots of money doing it, and yeah, you can pretty much just live your dream life. That is amazing, but you've got to understand what it takes to get there, and it does take a lot to get there. Honestly, that's probably the biggest thing that I want to talk about first in terms of obstacles. That's not even talking about the whole Amazon process, which some of these other questions will dive into that as we go through. But just when you come into this, understand that mindset is going to be absolutely key. Mindset, realistic expectations, not expecting something for nothing. If you've only got the capital to bring in one product, do I recommend if you start or not? Yeah, absolutely. Now, you haven't defined the amount of capital that's required. And so I'm going to do that for you. I'm saying right now, and I'm more and more happy to just say this publicly, is that if you don't have 5,000 US, it's going to be more difficult for you. So again, it depends what amount you're thinking about. You can do it with less. You're going to hear lots of people who say they've done it with less. Just understand, and one of my previous video, which I'll leave a link up here somewhere, I talk about this in terms of the more money you have to start, the easier it's going to be for you. The higher chance of success you're going to have, purely because you can stay in the game longer. You can afford to make the right investments in the things that matter. And you're not going to be making decisions based on scarcity or based on just a fear of, basically running out of money, right? So I say minimum $5,000 to do it properly. Again, you can do it with less. So I guess your question is, do you recommend to start with just one product? I mean, the short answer is absolutely yes. That's my recommended pathway, is reduce your risk at the start by learning the ropes, learning the process with just one product. Obviously, you might get a couple hundred units, something like that. And so your product cost might be 3,000 or 4,000 maybe. Then you want a bit of a buffer. Firstly, so that you can afford to market again for just unanticipated things that are going to come up. You're not exactly going to be able to calculate your launch costs prior. So you need some buffer there. And then here's the kicker, right? If it goes well for you, if this single product that you launch starts to do well, which is what you want, that is the desired outcome, you're still going to have a problem, which is that your sales are taking off too quickly and you've actually got a cash flow delay where you aren't getting the money back from Amazon in order to basically reorder the product as soon as possible from your supplier. So with that gap right there, it really helps to have an additional, potentially the same amount of money again, like 3,000 potentially. Again, if your sales start taking off and it happens really quickly, you just want that extra money on the sidelines. But absolutely start with one product, unless you're really, you really got a lot of money to spend and you really just want to get things going and accelerate the process. Start with the first product, test and prove the process through that first product. And then from there, you can scale up to basically having a portfolio of products that might take you from, doing just a single product doing 5,000 to 10,000 per month to a portfolio of, let's say, 10 of them, and now you're doing 50 to 100,000 per month, right? But it's baby steps. We start with one and we work from there. How to handle cash flow, and this is a second question, advice on selling or making bundles. So firstly, cash flow. I kind of covered it in the previous question, but by the way, if you're seeing these and you're like, capital, cash flow, what's all this? Or I don't care about that. Trust me, you will. Once you start selling, you'll find out that cash flow is one of the least talked about and yet most important problems for Amazon sellers. have more money on the side is the easiest possible way to do this, just so that when you start selling that product, there is that delay when you aren't going to get paid, but ideally you want to be able to have money to pay for more inventory again, so you can keep this flow going, so you can keep your sales going, and just keep that momentum going basically. So ideally you've got more money on the sidelines. Otherwise, how do you handle cash flow? There are things going into this. You want to be very strict about the type of product you're going to sell, and specifically the profit margins and the ROI. So even more so actually ROI than profit margin. That ROI stands for return on investment. And that means that let's say you put down $3,000 into your first order. If you're getting 100% ROI, you're going to get 100% return on that investment. So you put down $3,000. When you've sold that $3,000 worth of product at 100% ROI, you've actually made back $6,000. So you've doubled your money. Again, 100% increase. So going into that, having a product that's selling at more than 100% ROI, let's say it's selling at 200%, that means that you only need to sell, actually let's say it's 100% to keep it simple. If you sell $3,000 worth, you're going to make $3,000. So you can then double your inventory, or you can invest that $3,000 in a second product, right? Or for example, you only need to sell half of the $3,000 to actually make back all of your money. So the higher the ROI, the easier cash flow is going to be for you, because you're just making more money back faster. If you go into a product and you don't calculate your ROI correctly, and let's say you only end up with like 50% ROI, it's going to take you twice as long to actually get the money back so you can reorder. And it's not a good place to be in. So I recommend specifically look for products that have a greater than 100% ROI. And I mean after everything. So after PPC, after all fees, and lots of people get this stage wrong. I try and make this easy for people inside my course. I've got like a spreadsheet that just calculates it really, really exactly down to the dollar and the cent. But for you, just know that if you have a low ROI, cash flow is going to be more of an issue. That's the second biggest way to handle this, is to go for the right products that enable you to grow quickly and to double your money or triple your money every time that you sell through an order. Advice on making bundles, do it. If you can find a way to do it, just go for it. You need to have proven demand. So the bundle needs to make sense. It needs to actually add value to the customer. So the question or the thought process that I'd go through is, if you take these two items together, is this something that a customer would actually pay more for? For example, I don't know, a phone and a cup. Like, why would you bundle that together? There's no need for a person who is looking for a phone that they wouldn't buy a coffee mug, right? This is the simplest example, but at the same time, you see so many bundles that don't make any sense, and then they don't make any sales, and then they wonder why they're not making sales. Think about, does this bundle add more value to the customer? So for example, you're looking for items that are commonly bought together, they're frequently bought together. Part of the listing page is the best way to find that. If you're an existing Amazon seller and you have brand registry, you can actually go in and see that data, the exact data for your own product. So you can see who's buying your product and what's the next most commonly bought product. So that's a fantastic source of data. Again, if you've already gone through this once or twice, you've got some products selling, and you can start to see that, and then you can start to take basically the right decisions for your products. But overall, bundling really makes sense, because for example, let's say you're selling a product that maybe it costs you $2 extra to add on this bundle, this add-on item into your product, but it's selling for like, let's say 10, and it doesn't change the fees because it's the same size. Effectively, like, you can basically make that probably $8 extra profit just by adding that item in. Again, if there's real demand and a customer is really going to want to buy those things together. So bundling is a good idea if you can meet those criteria. Is it better to go with 5 average products without differentiation, or 1 but perfect? Good question, and the simple answer is 1 but perfect. If you just you could go for 5 average products, you could go for 50. If they aren't differentiated, if you can't answer this question, if you look at your product and you go, why would somebody choose my product over the competition's? That's the question to ask. If you can't answer that, and by the way, the answer can't be price. If you say, I can sell for cheaper, you've already lost, because what's going to happen is somebody else is going to say that same thing, and they're going to lower the price, and then you're going to have to lower the price because they're selling for cheaper now. And then they're gonna lower the price as well. And that's basically called a price war. That's a race to the bottom. Nobody wins if you're competing on price. So you need to ask that question, why would somebody buy this product over the rest? As long as you have an answer for that, and if you have a really good answer, that means you have really good differentiation, that product is gonna do well. And you want that one product that's gonna do really well because it has a great answer to that question, versus 5, 10, 20, 50 products that have no answer to that question. I can guarantee that all 50 of those products will pretty much fail. If you've got nothing that makes you stand out, they will all fail. So go with 1 that's perfect versus 5 that are average or have no differentiation. So follow on, how can you differentiate if there's nothing to improve on the product? So first of all, if there's nothing to improve on the actual product, that's gonna be more difficult. Then what you need to do is take a step back and think about, what game are you playing? You're playing the Amazon game. What else have you got there to play with? You've got the listing, you've got the main image. Particularly the main image can honestly make a huge difference. If you can even just design your product to look differently so that you can display it differently on that main listing image so that it stands out against the rest of the search results or against the rest of the products that you're competing against, even if the product is the same but it looks different, that can often be enough to count as a great differentiation. Keep in mind that if the product itself fundamentally is exactly the same, the strength of that barrier that you're creating or that differentiation you're creating, it's probably not going to last as long. So maybe you're just, doing the packaging a bit different or something like that, or it looks different from a certain angle. That absolutely can work, but understand that your competition can probably catch up relatively quickly. So ideally, you want the product to be different. But if it comes down to it, for example, like I've had great success in the past where, let's say everyone was selling the product and it looked like a rectangle, and then I changed the shape to a triangle. The product inside was the same, but like the way that it was presented was different. And I've had really good success doing that. It doesn't last as long though, because the other people who are selling the rectangles, basically the same product but looks like a rectangle, they'll see that this product that's a triangle is suddenly doing much better than their rectangle, right? A simplified example. But then they will go away and within 6-12 months or something, they will change their rectangles to look like triangles as well. So I've definitely done that multiple times. It's made me a lot of money doing this, but understand that the most fundamental changes to the product to make it better is like real differentiation. But if you can't do it, think about the listing, particularly the main listing image and the shape and the presentation. It could be colors, it could be angles, it could be whatever else to make that product stand out. Next, what is your product research criteria? I could go over this in great detail, and I have actually. It's on a YouTube video or 2 YouTube videos, but I'm going to link both of these up here. So first one is a really exhaustive product research tutorial. Honestly, if you can't, if you're not sure where to start there. It's like an hour of just like insanely detailed product research. And I'll link up another one as well, which is more application of the same criteria, which again are there, but applied to a different example. So go to those videos if you really want to work through this in great detail. But overall, I'm looking for differentiation. I'm not going to talk about everything here, but like basically, if you can differentiate the product in a way that really adds value to a target customer, you can make the product better. That's the most important thing for me. I need to be able to see that. And then obviously the numbers need to work out in terms of profitability. I don't care about how many reviews there are. I don't care about, does it fit within the certain product dimensions, or is it a certain product category? That stuff I think is just artificial limitations. And I'll link another video here where I interviewed one of my students, Adam, who's a multiple 7-figure seller. He's doing very well. And in that video, he actually explains his product research process. And I do this partially as well, but he actually looks specifically to go outside those criteria that everyone else is looking for. So if people say go for something that's shoebox size, he's looking for something that's really big. Or if people say go for the $20 to $30 price range, he's looking for a product that's $200, right? And so by stepping outside of the box, you actually start to open up your mind to realize that there are just all these crazy opportunities out there. So I don't think a defined price range or a defined category or defined dimensions really means much. So I don't recommend using them as criteria. But think about the improvability, think about the profitability. Do think about trying to slide under the radar a bit, mainly because of the first things we talked about in this video: capital, it's cash flows, things like that. If you're a complete beginner and you start going for potentially really competitive products that are doing like 30,000 per month or something, you got to understand that requires so much capital investment to compete with that and to maintain your inventory. You can go and do the maths on this, like how many units you're going to sell, how much that's going to cost per month in inventory. And generally people just can't maintain it, right? And oftentimes cash flow stops them from actually being able to grow into that, even if they had the best product idea in that market. And the thing is, those markets move quickly as well because there's so much competition. People going for a large slice of revenue, and so you're going to be competing against like very professional sellers. So that's why I recommend, I do actually say in terms of revenue range, to go between 5 to 20 as a sort of rough range. Again, I wouldn't go under that. I probably wouldn't go too far above that either, to be honest, again, because of cash flow, mainly cash flow and just difficulty and the competition you'll be encountering. So next question: sell different products in the same market or same product in different market? This is an advanced question. This is more like a scaling question, but it's a really good one. You need to consider what is your next most painful thing, right? What is the next step for you, or the flip side, either the most painful thing or the biggest lever that you have in front of you. So think about if you're selling the same product in different markets. Let's say you're starting in the US. Understand, and I have another video about this where I talk about different marketplaces. So check that out if you want to see a comparison of like which marketplaces. But understand that the US makes up 50% of Amazon's worldwide traffic, which means that most niches on AmazonUS.com are going to be much larger volume. You're going to get much higher sales for that than that same product would in a different marketplace like the UK, like Germany, for example, or Australia, or whatever other marketplace you may be thinking of. So understand if your product's doing 15,000 per month on Amazon.com, you need to go and check the other marketplaces to see if that product is going to get anywhere near that. And most likely it's going to get a lot less. It might get a few thousand, right? So that's the first kind of threshold that you're looking at is it worth selling that product in the other marketplace? Think about that. Otherwise, think about, do you have product opportunities in the same marketplace? If you've already got one product selling on Amazon US and you've got a brand that you're starting, do you have clear, obvious next potential products that you can sell to expand that brand? If that's the case, I'd stay there, because expanding out to a new different marketplace, you basically are opening up to you got to understand the taxes, you got to understand, opening a new seller account, just all these other hurdles that you need to get through, the shipping, importation, all of that sort of stuff. You can get through it. It's not that big of a deal. But at the same time, if you've got this great opportunity just sitting on your lap in terms of product number 2, product number 3 in the same marketplace, I'd probably just go down that pathway because it's easier and faster to grow. But it's a really good question, and it really depends on, again, what's the biggest potential opportunity that you see in front of you. So you would compare same product, different marketplace, is it much less volume, or is it the same, or does it look better maybe because there's no competition, versus what do you have sitting in the same marketplace? So again, your brand expansion there. Good question though. How do you make sure you have a good profit margin? I mean, the fact that you're actually asking this question is super important, because I know a lot of people are just focused on the revenue, the high level, the big numbers, the whatever, 30,000 per month in top line revenue, which is completely meaningless. So the fact that you're asking about profit margins is important. So first of all, going back to what I said before, don't forget about ROI. You need to use both of those numbers interchangeably, because sometimes you can have a really good profit margin and a bad ROI, or you can have a pretty low profit margin, but a really fantastic ROI. It really depends on the fee structure. And so that's actually going to lead into what I think is my overall answer is understand Amazon's fees, understand all of the costs that are involved in what you're doing. And there are a lot. And most people, honestly, even people who are very methodical normally, will mess this up, honestly. And I've messed this up many times myself. And it's only through having done this and having launched like 50 products that I know exactly down to the dollar and a cent what fees are being charged, where, and in what situations. So it's fees, it's costs, and basically just like create yourself a little spreadsheet if you have to, that really calculates all of these things, and include marketing costs, include all of those other costs that people don't really consider. And then they wonder why they're not making money. So that's it. You just go through Amazon's fees pages. You're going to have the referral fee, you're going to have the FBA fulfillment fees, which, by the way, understand dimensional weight. If you don't know what that means, go onto Amazon.com, the help pages, spend a few hours learning dimensional weights, how they actually get calculated, whether your product will be, what size category will it be, oversized, standard size, how does storage fees work? Do you understand long-term storage fees, and at what point that will happen? All of these things, it's quite complicated. It literally will take you a while to go and figure this out. But if you don't spend that time, you will probably think you're onto a winner, think you've got a great product, and then at the end of the day, you're just not going to be bringing in the money that you wanted to because you didn't understand the fees. So understand the fees, understand importation costs, all of it, everything, like from start to finish, just know them all off by heart, basically. Next, obstacles with launching a product in the US during these unsettling periods, protests, and etc. So yeah, a lot of unsettling stuff is happening, but the fact is, times of uncertainty are times of opportunity. And if you want to take advantage of this opportunity, which by the way has gotten a lot better, like I was bullish on Amazon and selling on Amazon and e-commerce and just doing online stuff. I was already like really bullish on it at the end of last year, at the start of this year. And now with everything that's happened, yes, there is uncertainty, but you've got to understand like who is the winning horse in this whole situation. And I can tell you right now, it's absolutely Amazon. It's absolutely selling online. It's absolutely e-commerce. And so you basically want to back the winning horse. So while there are obstacles and you're saying unsettling periods, don't be unsettled by this. Be excited by this. Understand that you have a much bigger opportunity sitting right in front of you right now. If you're in a position to take advantage of it, let's say it's going back to the capital and income issue, basically. If you're in a stable position where you've got income coming in right now, you just move to the top of the pack, because there are so many people who would love to start an Amazon business, and maybe some people who are watching this, but they can't. They don't have the financial security anymore. They don't have a source. They lost their job, whatever else. So all those people are out of the game right now. So this is not an unsettling period. This is an amazing period. Again, if you can make it work for you, if you've got the foundation to make that work. Other than that, obstacles, like there are some of these questions I'm going to go through, and it really comes back to the mindset. And this is why I wanted to cover that off right at the start of this video, is that I'm looking at this as a time of opportunity. I'm getting ready to double down on this. And yet I know a lot of people are just saying, general fear about stuff, and they're just associating that fear with everything that they see, including Amazon. And unfortunately, that's a really counterproductive mindset, because you're just going to be scared to do anything. And what's going to happen is this whole thing is going to normalize. Everything's going to go back to normal in whether it's a year, whether it's 2 years, and you're going to be sitting in the same spot. You're going to be sitting in exactly the same spot that you are right now. And there'll be some people who weren't unsettled during these periods. They again saw the opportunity. They realized that times of uncertainty are times of great opportunity. And those people in a year, when it's all no longer unsettling, those people are going to be so far ahead of you. So I don't know what to say. Like, shift the mindset, think positively. Again, if you've got the foundation, you are actually in a stable position. You're not struggling to put food on the table. Now's the time to make moves. Now's the time to be ballsy about it. Honestly, excuse the language. Be ballsy and just do something, right? This is a limited time opportunity. Other than obstacles, again, I guess going back to the previous question, like the logistics, it's taking longer, it's a bit more expensive. Don't think about those things as obstacles is my final answer to this question. How do you deal with pandemic randomness? Again, kind of answer this, go like headfirst into it, because randomness means uncertainty, means opportunity. Ultimately, that's what I'm looking for. Understand, of course, that the randomness, as you said, randomness is a good word. So there are a lot of things that have changed. Actually, I take that back. Randomness isn't a good word, because most of the stuff that's happening is happening for a reason. So you've got the pandemic. That's changed people's customer behaviors. That's changed the way that people are living their lives right now. So fine, you're dealing with that. Make the logical connections between what people are doing differently, and then how does that actually impact, let's say, for example, specific categories on Amazon. And you can follow it's a linear thought process where you go, okay, if people are going back at home, what are the things? We've already seen the things that they were buying before, because you can go and look at that data on Amazon. You can see it on Google Trends. And so it's not random anymore. You know it's going to happen. And you know as well, there are certain habits that are changing, shifting. Like, let's say, instead of people going to the gyms, right? Because gyms will be shut down, or they'll have restrictions for a while, or people will be scared to go to the gyms. And this isn't random. This makes sense. But people still need to work out. People still need to do exercise. So where does that activity go? Where does the habit change to? And the answer is, as you can probably go and look at this on Amazon, it's people start working out at home, or they start working out in alternative ways. And what does that mean? It means people are buying more workout equipment. People are buying solutions to that problem. This is not random. Think about it, and it makes sense. Yes, numbers are changing, but understand the reasons behind it, right? So that's how I deal with that. Is I understand what's changing, why is it changing. There is more sort of long-term uncertainty in terms of the economy, but it's not randomness. It's all happening for a reason. So figure out the actual reasons and then make decisions based on that. There are some great opportunities that are opening up in terms of these longer-term trends, in terms of, like, again, anything that's at home right now, working at home, working out at home, kids that are off school, all that sort of stuff. Like, these are medium to long-term shifts. Travel, bad ones, right? Travel. So travel is going to be one of the last things that really bounces back to where it was. So understand that if you want to sell travel stuff, the demand is just going to be a lot less. Maybe that means competition is going to be less, and that's the decision for you to work out. Is like, is it better to go in with less demand, less competition? Personally, I'd stay away from travel right now. But I think to summarize this, how do you deal with it? It's not randomness. Try and understand why things are happening the way they are, which isn't random, and then go from there. And again, you'll start to see the opportunity versus just the unsettlingness or the uncertainty. 2020 launch methods with COVID-19. The same. Nothing much has changed from that regard. Again, once you separate the things that are changing in terms of categories, in terms of demand, in terms of consumer behaviors, the launch strategies, everything on Amazon, the same, the processes, the principles, same. We've not changed anything. We're not planning to change anything. And this will probably be the case if you're watching this in 6 months' time or in 12 months' time. So launch methods, exactly the same. Launch with PPC. If you've got an audience, use an audience. If you can learn ManyChat Facebook, use ManyChat Facebook. Nothing's changed. So you can go back and watch all my old videos. You can go and find other videos on YouTube about how to launch, and don't think that that's really changed in any significant way because of COVID. Finishing the quality control of your first ever product, of the sample. Any advice? So first of all, always get samples. Always. You need to touch the product. You need to feel it. I guess in terms of advice, buy your competitor's products. You've got the samples, and you said sample, so that should really be plural. You should be comparing samples with an S, so multiple samples from multiple suppliers, and then you buy 2 to 3 to 5 of your competitor's products, and you really want to use them exhaustively. So I can't say specifically how you would use them, but think about what would the customer be using the product for, how would they be using it, what things could go wrong. Really, take it through a stress test, basically. And only by doing that, there's no other way of doing this will you see the real where quality matters So where is the competitors' products? Where does their quality suffer? Where can you do better than the competitors as well? And then also you're looking at the samples that you have between suppliers, because honestly, in this day and age, if you can't launch a good quality product that's going to make people happy and that's therefore going to get you good reviews, that product is just almost always going to do not that great, right? So product quality is super important. So don't forget this step. Again, if you're just getting one sample, that's probably not sufficient. Go to multiple suppliers, get the competitors' products, compare them all, and use them exhaustively. What are your forecasts for the rest of 2020 and 2021? So we're struggling with 2020 forecasts right now. So the big unknown for us, and I'm speaking in terms of my own business, what we're looking at, essentially the inputs required are inventory forecasting, right? So it's like, how much do we order? Overall, our forecasts are very positive. We've seen a huge shift upwards in our business across other businesses as a result of the stuff that's happened. Again, I'm not making any of this up, or I'm not like trying to sell you on this idea. Genuinely, selling on Amazon right now, after or during this whole pandemic stuff, is much, much better than it was before, like 4 months ago. And it was already really good 4 months ago. So overall, forecast is really good. Again, in terms of like, what could you possibly doing with your time? What possible ways could you be making money and building a business? Amazon is the answer. However, in terms of the exact, like, where are we going from here? So our forecasts, we see, I think I linked this already, but one of my previous videos talked about different marketplaces. We're seeing a lot of demand in those marketplaces. So we're planning to launch basically across marketplaces. We think we can probably double or triple our business just by doing that. Otherwise, forecasts, the economic uncertainty is probably the biggest one, because that does impact spending power. So that impacts, it's like people are going to be shopping online more than they are shopping in bricks and mortar. So they're going to be like moving that spending online. But the question still is like, at what point do people who don't have jobs stop spending money? And I think it is uncertain in terms of like what happens with stimulus, what happens with keeping people spending basically, and keeping the economy going. So I don't actually want to make a forecast about 2020 or 2021, because I think there is a lot of uncertainty there. But again, it's just like, look at all the options you've got in front of you, and the answer is just going to be do Amazon. Worry about the forecasting, worry about the exact, like, does it go up this much, or does it go up that much, or like, does it stay the same? Don't worry about too much about that. The other thing, we are looking for some more, we're actually delaying our Q4 orders. So Q4 is that's like Christmas, late November to mid-December basically is Q4. And for us, and for almost any Amazon seller, that is a massive time of opportunity. Like I put videos on my channel. Last year we did 700,000, something like that, in sales in 1 month during that period. This year it should be a lot higher. Again, because of the economic uncertainty, we don't know how much higher it's going to be. And so we're waiting to order inventory as late as possible, basically. But the pandemic is an interesting event. It's changing the world in a lot of ways. Rather than forecasting out too much and just telling you a bunch of stuff that's probably going to be wrong, I would just say, focus on your options you have available to you. Focus on the winning horse. That's Amazon. So just double down on that. And that's what we're doing. And the last one is not a question. It's a comment. I want to see your A to Z course. I'm a noob. So if you want to see my A to Z course, I'm changing the way I'm doing things. You actually have to apply right now. And I'm also applying some kind of strict criteria. But if you want to know more about that, I'll put a link in the description down below. So you can go and click on that. There'll be a free training video, gives you more idea about how all that works. And you may be able to see the course or to join it if you'd be a good fit. And that's it, guys. That's how to sell on Amazon. These are your questions answered. Again, if you would like to be able to ask these questions and get them answered in this format, or you just want to connect with me, 2 ways you can do it. First of all, Instagram. So Myles Dunphy, you can go and follow me there. I'm reasonably active on Instagram, and I'm also inside the FBA Nomads Facebook group, right? So link in description down below, or you can probably search it in Facebook. It's free. Both of those are free. I'd love to catch you there. So make sure to connect with me if you'd like to do something like this, or just say hi, whatever. And I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, if you're still here watching this, it means you did like this video. So now's the time. Smash the like button. Show me that it's worth making these videos and answering these questions. I do enjoy doing this, by the way, but if you smash the like button, it helps me show that it's worth doing. And yeah, make sure to subscribe as well. And I will see you guys in the next video.